Well, the weekend has come to a close, but we do not end things here. As you probably know, we're going to be doing, of course, 3 reviews from 3 different promotions. The first one is with MLW, Major League Wrestling, with Fury Road. Now, this event happened on the 19th of September, but it was not later broadcast on the YouTube channel until the 27th of September. But this one features, of course, 3 first-round matches of the Opera Cup tournament. So they intend to finish it out. And then, of course, we see of other special matches taking place as well. A lightning match and more. And then we move on, of course, with NXT No Mercy. As you probably know, we have a weaponized steel cage match between Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe. As you know, this is going to be a brutal match. We even have, of course, the WWE Women's Speed Championship on the line, but there was a bit slight change over the challenger facing, of course, Soruka. And then we have, of course, the NXT North American Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, and the NXT Championship all on the line. But the real question we ask ourselves, will we see, of course, a title change? That's something we're definitely going to see. And then, of course, we move on with our last review, which is New Japan Pro Wrestling with Destruction in Kobe. As you probably can guess, we have the Never Openweight Championship on the line. Don Fale, formerly known as Belloc Fale, challenges Boltin Oleg for this belt. The IWGP Global Heavyweight Championships on the line. Gabe Kidd defends it against Shingo Takagi. The GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship is also on the line, which is very unusual. And of course, the main event features the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship will be on the line. Zack Sabre Jr. will face off against Ren Narita, which is the last thing anybody needs to see is a member of the House of Losers obtaining this belt. So we'll see what happens. And as always, we'll cap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the yapping. Let's get cracking. So let's begin with our first review, and this is from MLW Fury Road. Okay, Major League Wrestling, or as we know them, MLW, their latest show Fury Road. And this one, I believe, happened in Texas. Now, it opened up with Jesus Rodriguez doing his usual introductions to the bosses of MLW, Selena De La Renta and Cesar Duran. Now, many of you may have heard about this part of it. Apparently, Cesar Duran took a shot at WWE. I'll explain this part in our news update, so we'll worry about that some other time. So let's get to right now with the first matches. We have a trios match. We have Galeon Fantasma, which means the Phantom Galleon, featuring Zandokan Jr., Defunto, and Barbosa. They take on Diego Hill, Atlantis, and Blue Panther. So yes, it's interesting to see Blue Panther and Atlantis team up because many of you know this. I mentioned this recently. The first time I ever watched Lucha Libre was, in fact, these two were the ones that got me into it. I remember they were in the match for a championship. I don't remember which one. If I can find it, I'll do a little quick review about that for myself. That way, so you guys can enjoy it. But yes, it was a trios match. But I guess Diego Hill continues to impress me. I mean, he has this great high fly capability, and it fit perfectly with Atlantis and Blue Panther for what they can do. But in the end, it was Atlantis with a Hurricanrana onto Barbosa, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Atlantis, Blue Panther, and Diego Hill walked away with the victory. Now, Selena De Renta, along with Cesar Duran, were having a little nice time with the tequila made by El Gato until they were interrupted by Kuro Kwan. As you know, he's still pissed off that he did not win the MLW World Middleweight Championship. And of course, he decided to miss Jesus Rodriguez. But however, of course, El Gato was not going to let Kuro Kwan to get into his mess. So we'll see what happens between those two down the road. Now, our next two matches are part of the the first round matches of the Opera Cup tournament. For many of you who may not know this is a tournament where it happens every year, and the winner will get a shot of the MLW World Heavyweight Championship. And that's how we jump into this. Now, our first match, we have Paul London versus Okumura. Many of you may remember Paul London from back in the day in WWE when he teamed up with Brian Kendrick. Yes, now he's in his solo thing, but the match turned interesting. You see, in the commentary booth, joining them was Satoshi Kojima, Okumura's tag team partner and friend. While he's eating bread, he's enjoying the match and commentating. But the one thing that was messed up for Kojima is the fact that Paul London did something that, of course, got the attention of breaking Okumura's submission move, allowing for, of course, Paul London to put Okumura in a submission and force him to tap out, and just like that is over. So he ended up being now in the quarterfinals, if I believe. And then, of course, our next match involving the Opera Cup tournament, we have Volador Jr. versus Titan. Of course, these guys probably know each other too well from CML, very well. I mean, these two guys are very talented for what they do in the ring. However, in this match, Volador Jr. decided to do the one thing that's despicable. He removed Titan's mask and put him in a inside cradle, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, Alex Hammerstone, as you know, he's been unhinged because he feels that things have not been going well for him, because MJF made him perfectly clear. You were not the same guys I remember years ago. So he's trying to remind him, and that's exactly what's happening. And now he's aiming for the MLW World Heavyweight title that it's currently in the possession of Max Kruger. So we'll see what happens. But speaking of Kruger in fact ordered the Sentai Death Squad to attack Mr. St. Laurent as a message to the Skyscrapers, which is Bishop Dyer, formerly known as Baron Corbin, and of course Dominic Dijak, or as many of you remember him as Dominic Dijakovic or Dijak in WWE NXT. And now the reason he's aiming for them is because they have something that they want, that Contra Unit wants, and those are in fact the MLW World Tag Team belts, and that's something that they cannot allow to be slipped through their fingers. So we'll see what happens from there. Our next match is, of course, a women's match. We have Alexandra Quintanilla, who is a resident in Texas, taking on Shotzi Blackheart. I know it's been a while since people were expecting her to wrestle, but due to injury that put her on a sideline, it kind of set it up right there. But Shotzi, of course, picked up the win when she applied a senton, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, balls to the walls, she picked up the win. Now, Skyscraper, Bishop Dyer, and Dominic Dijak are well aware what just happened to St. Laurent, so they're not going to let this go whatsoever. They want blood, so you probably can guess what's that going to happen. Now, our next match is a lightning match, which of course you have like a certain amount of time, like maybe 10 minutes or so to pick it up. We have Satoshi Kojima versus Mr. Thomas. Now, of course, Kojima, being a legend, he would do whatever it takes to pick up the win by bringing a lot of his powerhouse into it. And of course, Mr. Thomas, well, he was sneaky enough to attack Kojima before the start of the ring, but it did not work in his favor because Kojima, being a G, of course, he took him out with a lariat, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Main event is our last match involving the Opera Cup tournament of the first round matches. We have the very controversial Austin Aries taking on, that's right, Time Splitter Kushida. Now, of course, we all know Kushida is an excellent wrestler, has high-flying capabilities, a very technical wrestler, as you probably can guess. But Austin Aries, well, you know how he is. He's very aggressive. He is very dangerous in the ring. But he was able to pick up the win when he applied a brainbuster, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he moved on. However, it does not end things here. While, of course, Austin Aries was celebrating his victory, he got in the face of Paul London. It seems now these two guys, who I'm going to presume they know each other, decided to have a little brawl in the back. But however, the show does not end things there. Skyscraper, who've been looking for blood against Mads Kruger for the attack on Mr. St. Laurent, well, let's just say things got out of hand. They thought that 2-on-1 was a better advantage, but it did not. Kruger was not going to go down no matter what until, of course, he was attacked by Alex Hammerstone. So basically, you know how that's going to be. So we'll see what happens in the next show, and I believe that's going to happen next month with Slaughterhouse. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, we'll end things here with MLW. Let's move on with NXT No Mercy. Okay, NXT No Mercy. So, as you probably know, I did not see this on a Saturday, but I watched it the following day, which is right now on Sunday. So that's how things started with me on that front. So, we opened up with Javon Evans taking on Josh Briggs. Now, this match, as you know, happened. Javon Evans, as you all remember, he was unsuccessful to win the NXT Championship against Obafemi, but many people have often say Javon Evans had what it takes to be a main eventer, despite of his age. But of course, Josh Briggs could not stand to hear a guy like, of course, Javon Evans, who had this opportunity to slip away, but he thinks that he will get another opportunity. We know Javon Evans will give another opportunity, and they've been going back and forth to this. And of course, Javon Evans had to go dig a hole in order to get to fight his way through hell and back against Josh Briggs, who is a very powerful guy, a very powerhouse guy. But in the end, Javon Evans was able to pick up the victory with a cutter off the turnbuckle, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, NXT has acknowledged what happened in Victory Road this past Friday. As you know, one of their own, Kalani Jordan, has obtained the TNA Knockouts World Championship. And of course, they are willing to acknowledge of what's been happening, as you know, with the invasion taking place. We will hear from Ava, so we'll get to that in a bit. Now, our next match is the WWE Women's Speed Championship. Soruka. Originally, she was supposed to face Lainey Reed, but due to some injury or whatever medical issue she's been having was pulled aside for this. And the person that stepped up was Jada Parker. As you know, Jada Parker has been looking to aim better, as you know, trying to go at the top as possible. But this is a very interesting thing. She only has like about 5 minutes in order to pick up the win. But Tsuruka was able to apply that when she did a soul snatcher, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But however, she only had 12 seconds to spare. So basically, it ended very well right there. Now, our next match is a weaponized steel cage match. Jordan Grace versus Blake Monroe. This whole thing began, of course, back in Evolution when Blake Monroe stabbed Jordan Grace in the back, who viewed her as someone who is not main event material, someone who doesn't deserve to be in the NXT Women's Championship. And of course, Jordan Grace trusted her, but now it's going to be a messy, bloody weapons. I mean, you got all types of plunder, trash cans, kendo sticks, chairs, whatever you're going to use to take each other out. And not to mention, they brought in diamonds instead of thumbtacks. And of course, I'm sure those things hurt as hell when those pointy things. I know they're not that sharp, I'm not going to lie, but I'm sure it's going to be hell of a pain like that. But in the end, Jordan Grace did an air raid crash right through a table, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So Jordan Grace did it, but the real question is, where do we go from here? Now, General Manager Ava has acknowledged about what happened this past Tuesday when TNA roster showed up and invaded NXT. So she mentioned that she had a hours of conversation with Santino Marella to came up with the perfect solution. That on October 7th, they're having a show called Invasion. So they're going to have, of course, a Survivor Series styles matches, both men and women's. But they also mentioned that the TNA and the NXT tag team belts will be on the line in a winner takes all match. And I'm sure this is the one thing that TNA cannot afford to lose. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, once again, Last Legend, as you know, she has a very disdain pleasure towards Jada Parker, feeling that Jada Parker is not the perfect person to surpass her, and she's been calling her out until, of course, you know, Jada Parker showed up and attacked her. So you probably can guess how this is going to be. Sooner or later, they have to face each other. Now, our next match, we do have, of course, the NXT North American Championship. Tavion Heights will take on Ethan Page. Of course, as you all know, Ethan Page is trying to prove that he is the greatest North American champion. But, of course, he has to face against a man who is an Olympian who won a gold medal before, and that is Tavion Heights. But I have to say, Tavion Heights really pulled up a good job, but unfortunately he was unable to succeed when, of course, I'm not sure exactly what Ethan Page used, but it looked more like a cutter or a twist of fate, one of the two. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, during the post-match, as you know, Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. has his sights set, because we know Ethan Page wants the Latin American Championship. But the real question is, when will that happen? I wouldn't be surprised if this could happen in Invasion, so we'll see. Now, Kelly Kincaid did an interview with Miles Bourne. Miles Bourne, as you know, he is happy he took out Lexus King and put him in his place. But however, he has much bigger fish to fry. As you know, he is not going to tolerate with TNA making a mockery on NXT. So he's putting himself in front lines. However, we did see a video with Mike Santana saying that NXT is giving a warning to NXT, but he also said that on Tuesday he is not coming alone. So he said he's going through the front door like he did last time. So we'll see what happens. Now, our next match, we have the NXT Women's Championship. Lola Vice making her attempt, and of course her family watching this in the ringside take on Jaycee Jane. Now, of course, the one factor in this, Jaycee Jane was able to survive by having Fallon Henley and formerly Jasmine Nix helping her out to win her matches. But however, Fallon Henley got caught in the cookie jar, and we just don't know we just didn't anticipate this was going to happen. We would assume that Lola Vice will finally become the NXT Women's Champion. But however, at some point, a masked assailant attacked her, kicking her out right in front of her family, and her dad was wondering what the hell, like this has happened. And of course, JZ Jane applied the encore, the rolling encore, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, the match ended with JZ Jane retaining the belt. However, there has been talk with many people in this ring. There was an interview, of course, with Lady Raid earlier, where she was not told that she was not medically cleared, and she hopes that sooner or later the Speed Championship will be going to her. And Lola Vice told her, "Your time will come soon enough." And of course, many people are suspecting that Laney Reid could be the masked assailant. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is Laney Reid. I wouldn't be surprised if Lola Vice cost her the WWE Speed Championship. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match is the main event, the NXT Championship. Ricky Saints taking on the ruler, Obafemi. Of course, Obafemi, we know that he's been dominant so far. He had took out anybody that stood in his way, and that, of course, is impressive. But he's facing someone who declared himself that he is a special wrestler. But the real question, how special is he is? And that's something, of course, has been questioned. But it took about at least four DDTs for Ricky Saints to take out Obafemi on certain occasions. Not in a row, but on certain occasions. Outside the ring, on the commentary booth, 2 in the ring. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, brand new NXT champion. So that is right there, absolute. So I'm pretty happy for him that he won this title. But the real question, what's next from here? So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. But as of right now, we are done with NXT No Mercy. Let's move on with our last and final review, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, last review, New Japan Pro Wrestling Destruction in Kobe. This took place, of course, recently at the Kobe World Hall. And this is one of their big shows, in case anybody asks. So let's get started with our first match. We have the House of Losers once again, consistent of Dick Togo, Sho, Doiki, Sanada, and Evil, taking on the members of Huntai, consistent of Yoshihashi, Yo, Yuya Uemura, Shota Umino, and of course our current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion El Desperado. Now this, of course, you can count as a preliminary match between El Desperado and Doiki. Now before, of course, Huntai made their presence known in the ring, Sho, who's being a little prick, of course, as always, saying that he's telling the world that Doiki is the real IWGP World Junior Heavyweight Champion. So you can guess that he's a moron from there. But of course, we all know how House of Torture operates. They like to play dirty. They play dirty tactics, ensuring that things will go their way. But however, things didn't go away because we've been seeing some interesting cohesion between Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura. Something you probably don't see every day, but it happened. So this time they were able to pick up the win thanks to the cohesion, thanks to Yuya Uemura applying her Karana on, of course, onto Dick Togo, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So Huntai, thanks to Uemura, picked up the win. Now our next match, well, this is a very interesting one, as you probably know, as Tanahashi is making his way out real soon at the start of 2026 at Wrestle Kingdom. He has another match against the Great Khan. Now this is not the first time these two have faced off each other. The last time it was, of course, Tanahashi who walked away with the win. But you probably ask yourself, how much can Tanahashi endure? As you know, he is not the same as he used to be in the ring, but he's able to get everything done until he could not do his usual repertoire that we have seen in his arsenal, such as the high five flow, the Texas Cloverleaf. He used a roll up, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, right in the post match, we had a surprise visit from someone all the way from Pro Wrestling Noah. We're talking about, of course, Kaito Kiyomiya. So he's asking him, from my understanding, that he would like to team up. Basically, the last thing he needs to do before, of course, Tanahashi is retiring. So this is something I guess we all want to see, because people often say that, of course, that Kato Mia could be the ace of Noah in some capacity, and now he wants to step up with the soon-to-be former ace of New Japan. Not passing of the torch, but more like, I want to team up with this guy so I learn one day what it's like to be as an ace one day. It's that sort of thing I can think of. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, our next match, we have the Never Openweight Championship, Don Fale versus Boltin Oleg. Now, ever since Don Fale turned his back on the War Dogs, especially that he was the last of the OGs of the Bullet Club, now he faces against Boltin Oleg. Now, I think he has been Never Openweight Champion before. I'm not 100% sure. But, man, I have to say, this was a brutal fight and a big fight, both Boltin Oleg. Not only he has to deal with someone who's a bit more bigger than him, but he has to deal with Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I'm referring to Evil and Dick. Of course, these dickheads are intending to get involved. But when you know there's a moment where they have to get involved, it's when the referee is out. But I have to say, Boltin Oleg took it like a champ and took these crazy dorks out. But the surprising moment is when he used a kamikaze on Fale, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And of course, you know how things are. Evil attacked Boltin Oleg, and it doesn't surprise me that this moron decides, I'm going to challenge you for the Never Openweight Championship. This is something we have seen already before, and now he plans to do it again. So, we'll see what happens until then. Our next match is for the IWGP Tag Team titles. Knockout Brothers, consistent of Oscar and Yuto Ice, or as we know them, Oscar Lobe and Yuto Nakashima, ever since they went on an excursion and made their return, joining the Bullet Club War Dogs. They've been aiming, of course, for these the IWGP Tag Team belts. Now, Taichi has been holding the fort while Ishii was out across the seas to take care of matters. But, however, when he came back, you can see there's been some wins and losses in the preliminary matches. But in the end, of course, it was the Knockout Brothers with their infamous move, the Knockout Brothers, as they called it. They took out Ishii, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, brand new IWGP Tag Team Champions. However, unsurprisingly, we saw Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura making their way to the ring, and now they put themselves in, of course, the position, the challenge for these belts. And I think this is something we will love to see. We have been seeing how great of cohesion these two guys are. Despite that they were rivals, now they're getting along great. I have to say that this combination was way better than, of course, with Shota Umino and Ren Narita, as you know what happened last time. But we'll see where it goes. Now, our next match is the GHC Junior Heavyweight Championship on the line. And this was something you probably don't see every day. For those who don't know, this championship is not originally part of New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it's part of Pro Wrestling Noah, one of the rivals, a rival company, as you know, or as people say, the number 2 Japanese wrestling promotion in all of Japan. And Hiromu made the decision to challenge Taiji Shimori to put the belt on the line against them. Now, Ishii was a bit miffed about this, because obviously, for those who don't know the history with Ishimori, prior before Ishimori made his presence known in New Japan, he was, of course, in Pro Wrestling Noah, and he was a former GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion. This is something, of course, you probably can tell that he didn't want no part of this, but eventually he made some conditions, and of course Hiromu made that decision. But of course, you know that Ishimori would do whatever it takes to obtain this belt, of course. But things didn't go well according to him, because he ended up being taken out, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Hiromu retained the belt. However, he had a surprise attack from someone who calls himself the face of the Noah Juniors, and that is Eita. Eita, as you know, made a vow to the Noah fan base that he attempts to bring that belt back, and that's exactly what he attempts to do. But the real question is Hiromu ready for this? I think that's the one thing we all got to be able to see sooner or later. Now, our next match, this grudge match, has been going back and forth with these guys on various occasions. Yota Tsuji versus David Finlay. We know that Finlay has disdain towards Yota Tsuji for obvious reasons. For many of you remember, he won the New Japan Cup and he was unsuccessful to obtain the championship. And David Finlay thinks that it should have been him winning it, but you know how that goes. But man, these guys were attempting to take each other out no matter what they did. I mean, they tried to put themselves through the turnbuckles, all of that. But in the end, it was Yota Tsuji that came on top when he applied, of course, a Gene Blaster, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he won the match. Now, our next match is for the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. Gabe Kidd makes his next defense against Shingo Takagi. Shingo, as you know, has been a powerhouse in New Japan for many years. As you probably can guess, he is always the toughest SOB who's willing to fight the toughest as him. But Gabe Kidd thinks, Shingo, you have surpassed yourself. But of course, Shingo hasn't feels like he still can go. And that's exactly what he did. But in the end, of course, Gabe Kidd walked away with the win when he applied a pile driver. 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, it appears now that someone has already issued a challenge, and this is the person who Gabe Kidd defeated the championship for, and that is, of course, Yota Tsuji. So we'll see what happens from there. Now, our main event is the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Ren Narita makes his first attempt against Zack Sabre Jr. Now, this was bound to happen sooner because, if you guys may know, Ren Narita, being the scumbag that he is, he actually defeated Zack Sabre Jr. in the G1 Climax. Now, it was a non-tournament matches, but I knew from that very beginning that little prick decides to challenge it, because you know that the House of Losers will love nothing more to obtain the belt and show the world that they are the true pro wrestlers, not the fakers and wannabes like everybody else in, because they think they are real wrestlers. Bullshit. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why they obtained it. Now, of course, when it comes, Ren Narita tried to be more aggressive to take him out. When that did not help, of course, his posse showed up. I'm talking about Yujiro Takahashi and Sanada. But Zack Sabre Jr. fought back. And of course, thank you, Young Lions, for taking out the trash. Yeah, he took out Sanada and Yujiro out, leaving enough time for Zack Sabre Jr. to take out Ren Narita with the Zack driver, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And I hope Ren Narita goes in the back and cry like a little bitch, because he cannot take a loss. But, as you know, Zack Sabre Jr. did make one thing's clear. Now that that's out of the way, there's one person that it's in his sight coming up soon. And many of you guys know him. That is the Alpha, Konosuke Takeshita, the G1 Climax winner. Well, we'll see what happens, because that match will be coming up soon. So stay tuned, boys and girls. As you all know, we are done with our reviews, so let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Alright, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with upcoming events first. Stardom has announced on the 18th of October they'll be making their way to Torohashin, I believe. And this is, of course, later announced that it was the home of Sayaka Kurara. So this is her triumphant return to her hometown. It's still unclear what the card is, but I wouldn't be surprised that she'll be in the main event, either in singles competition or in tag team competition. But I will stay close to this one to see what the card is. I'm really, really curious about it. Now, as you all know, GCW will be making their debut soon on November 8th in Maine. Their event is called Massacre in Maine, and names have already officially been announced. We have Maki Ito, who I mentioned it's been mentioned on her schedule. Shotzi Blackheart, Ricky Morton, Danhausen, Matt Tremont, Acticus Koger, and Effie. Now, there are some names that will be mentioned at some point, so these are the ones that are. Now, speaking of Maki Ito, House of Glory has announced for their event the 15th of November, Super Clash that will be taking place. Maki Ito will be making her debut in this promotion. I'm really happy for her. Now, as you all know, the German promotion West Side Extreme Wrestling has their annual tournament known as the 16 Karat Gold that will take 3 days on the 6th through the 8th of March of 2026. I did mention that Shihiro Hashimoto will be involved, but the name that they now mentioned will be involved in this year is none other than the King of Strange Style, Aries. So that's pretty much what happens right there. Now on to some developments. Many of you know these guys. Tranquilos de Japon was consistent of Tetsuya Naito and of course Bushi. However, they just announced there is a brand new member of the group named LTJ. I don't know who the hell is that guy, but he is in the group. So it's interesting. NXT referee Vicky Dierico apparently won first place in her debut model Daytona Pop AM Championship. Yes, so there's photos of her doing one of those fitness model type competitions. So yeah, she won first place. Now, many of you remember I was reviewing MLW Fury Road. Cesar Duran took a shot on WWE due to the fact that they're moving WrestleMania to Saudi Arabia. So basically, that's what's happening. This is what he actually said, just to be clear, so he knows exactly, so you guys can hear clearly. Would some other company pack up their big show and ship off to Saudi Arabia to take that blood money? We come here with the rest deal right in Texas. Duran stated that Salina de la Renta added to the sentiment that the crowd remember that Major League Wrestling, we don't play soft, we don't play safe, we chose violence. So basically they're saying, that WWE took, of course, blood money from Saudi Arabia to have the show there. And I think some people can agree with that because, as you all know, Triple H did stated that they were never going to take WrestleMania internationally. And of course, he broke that promise and he took blood money. And of course, you look at MLW, they're like the kind of people who are saying, we're going to stick true to our guns. And that's exactly what they're going to do. Now, Tony Khan, as you know, was giving praises to the Hurt Syndicate. And this is what he had to say. And this was during an interview with somebody. Let me pull it out. MVP is an outstanding pro wrestling mind. He's come in because at the top voice of AEW, Bobby Lashley's still undefeated and unpinned in the ring. He is an outstanding star. Shelton Benjamin has come to AEW and been one of the top athletes, somebody that has not only turned back the clock, but established themselves as one of the premier bell-to-bell wrestlers to this day after decades in the sport. When you have two athletes like Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, they have held the World Tag Team Championship together. They've been single stars. Now MVP is stepping in the ring, wrestling for us, which has been having a great group in AEW. For me, MVP has to be out there with some of the smartest people and the best minds. He has a great career in the ring as wrestler and has a great experience helps him as one of the top coaches and managers in pro wrestling today. He has very inspirational story outside of the ring, which only enhance his knowledge and legacy. Love the work with MVP. He is a tremendous kind of great person we want in AEW. So basically, he gives a lot of praises to MVP and the rest of the Hurt Syndicate. So yeah, that's how the kind of person is. And even during an interview, MVP mentioned that he owed Tony Khan everything because he allowed him to finish the story. Now, some people remember the Hurt Business did not get to finish their story. MVP mentioned that they still to this day have no idea why they shut it down. And I'm sure many of you will love to know that story, but hopefully one day we'll get to hear it. But we're glad that they're going to finish it one way or the other. So we'll see what happens. So as of right now, we are done with, of course, with everything, with our reviews and our updates. Let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, I haven't decided yet. I know there was a Stardom event that took place, or two, but we'll see what happens. I will try to catch up with that, and hopefully try to catch up with other events that I might have missed out, such as Noah. As you know, they already finished with their N1 victory. I know I need to catch up with Mighty Gold, finishing off with the Dream Star Grand Prix. So we'll see how that will go. But as of right now, we'll leave things as it is. I'll just see what happens from there. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.